Good morning, squirrels. In the lodge room, hotel, whatever you want to call it, in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. I am so sorry. I am so behind with Rose in Bloom. Let's go ahead and get started. We were in chapter 3 called Miss Campbell, and I was midway somewhere. And I'm sure we'll have interruptions. My brother's going out for coffee. He's bringing me some back. He'll come in going, "Trigger!" And you might hear all kind of truck noises and stuff, because I was going to try to do it out on the balcony, but the sun was shining right straight in on me. I couldn't see a darn thing, and the truck noises and stuff were so loud. So anyway. Today I meet up with Christy. Hook me up crochet with Christy. We met up for the first time last year, but it's going to be great to see her again. So yay. Let's see, I'll go back and read the last paragraph. Nothing's amiss with you lads, I hope. No, thank heavens. Thank heaven. So far, I've had little trouble with either, though Mac is an odd stick and Steve a puppy. I don't complain, for both will outgrow that sort of thing, and are good fellows at heart, thanks to their mother. But Clara's boy is in a bad way, and she will spoil him as a man as if she has as a boy if his father doesn't interfere. I told Brother Stephen all about him when I was in Calcutta last year, and he wrote to the boy, but Clara's got no end of plans in her head, and so she insisted on keeping Charlie a year longer when his father ordered him off to India, replied the doctor as they walked away. It is too late to order. Charlie is a man now, and Stephen will find he has been too easy with him all these years. Poor fellow, it's been hard lines for him, and is likely to be harder, I fancy, unless he comes home and straightens things out. He won't do that if he can help it. He has lost all his energy living in that climate and hates worry more than ever. So you could imagine what an effort it would be to manage a foolish woman and a headstrong boy. We must lend a hand, Mac, and do our best for poor old Steve. The best we can do for the lad is to marry and settle him as soon as possible. My dear fellow, he's only 23, began the doctor as if the idea was preposterous. I think I'm reading a lot of what I read already, maybe not. Then a sudden change came over him as he added with a melancholy smile, I did read a bunch. How much one can hope and suffer even at 23. And be all the better for it if bravely outlived, said Uncle Mac, with his hand on his brother's shoulder and the sincerest approval in his voice. Then kindly returning to the younger people, he went on inquiringly, You don't incline to Clara's view of a certain matter, I fancy. Decidedly not. My girl must have the best, and Clara's training would spoil an angel, answered Dr. Alec quickly. But we shall find it hard to let our little Rose go out of the family. How would Archie do? He's been well brought up and is a thoroughly excellent lad. The brothers had retired to the study by this time and were alone, yet Dr. Alec lowered his voice as he said with a tender sort of anxiety, Pleasant to see. You know I do not approve of cousins marrying, so I'm in a quandary, Mac, for I love the child as if she were my own, and I feel as if I could not give her up to any man whom I did not know and trust entirely. It is of no use for us to plan, for she must choose for herself. Yet I do wish we could keep her among us and give one of our boys a wife worth having. We must, so never mind your theories, but devote yourself to testing our elder lads and making one of them a happy fellow. All are heart whole, I believe, and though young, still for this sort of thing, we can be gently shaping matters for them, since no one knows how soon the moment may come. Sorry, I forgot to put on my do not disturb. Moment may come. Is that what I just said? My faith, it is like living in a powder mill to be among a lot of young folks nowadays. All looks as calm as possible till a sudden spark produces an explosion, and heaven only knows where we find ourselves after it's over. And Uncle Mac set himself comfortably down to settle Rose's fate while the doctor paced the room, plucking at his beard and knitting his brows as if he found it hard to see his way. "Yes, Archie is a good fellow," he said, answering the question he had ignored before. "An upright, steady, intelligent lad who will make an excellent husband if he ever finds out that he has a heart. I suppose I'm an old fool, but I do like a little more romance in a young man than he seems to have, more warmth and enthusiasm, you know, bless the boy. He might be 40 instead of 3 or 4 or 20. He's so sober, calm, and cool. I'm younger than he is and could go a-wooing like Romeo if I had any heart to offer a woman." The doctor looked rather shamefaced as he spoke, and his brother burst out laughing. "See here, Alec, it's a pity so much romance and excellence as yours should be lost. So why don't you set these young fellows an example and go a-wooing yourself?" Woo, woo, woo. Jessie had been wondering how you managed to keep from falling in love with Phoebe all this time, and Clara is quite sure you waited only till she was safe under Aunt Plenty's wing to offer yourself in the good old-fashioned style. And the doctor stood aghast as the mere idea. Then he gave a resigned sort of sigh and added like a martyr, "If those dear women would let me alone, I'd thank them forever. Put the idea out of their minds, for heaven's sakes, Mac, or I shall be having that poor girl flung at my head and her comfort destroyed. She's a fine creature, and I'm proud of her, but she deserves a better lot than to be tied to an old fellow like me, whose only merit is his fidelity." "As you please, I was only joking," and Uncle Mac dropped the subject with secret relief. The excellent man thought a good deal of family and has been rather worried at the hints of the ladies. After a moment's silence, he returned to a former topic, which was rather a pet plan of his. "I don't think you do Archie justice, Alec. You don't know him as well as I do, but you'll find he has heart enough under his cool, quiet manner. I've grown very fond of him, think highly of him, and don't see how you could do better for Rose than to give her to him, if she will go," said the doctor, smiling at his brother's businesslike way of disposing of the young people. "She'll do anything to please you," began Uncle Mac in perfect good faith. For 25 years in the society of a very prosaic wife had taken nearly all the romance out of him. "It's of no use for us to plan, and I shall never interfere except to advise. And if I were to choose one of the boys, I should incline to my godson," answered the doctor gravely. "What? My ugly duckling?" exclaimed Uncle Mac in great surprise. "The ugly duckling turned out to be a swan, you remember. I've always been fond of the boy because he's so genuine and original. Crude as a green apple now, but sound at the core and only needs time to ripen. I'm sure he'll turn out a capital specimen of the Campbell variety." "Much obliged, Alec, but it will never do at all. He's a good fellow and may do something to be proud of by and by, but he's not the mate for our Rose. She needs someone who can manage her properly when we are gone, and Archie is a man for that, depend upon it." "Confound the property!" cried Dr. Alec impetuously. "I want her to be happy, and I don't care how soon she gets rid of her money if it's going to be a millstone around her neck. I declare to you I dreaded the thought of this time so much that I've kept her away as long as I could, and trembled whenever a young fellow joined us while we were abroad. Had 1 or 2 narrow escapes, and now I'm in for it, as you can see by tonight's success, as Clara calls it. Thank heaven I haven't many daughters to look after. Come now, don't be anxious. Take Archie and settle it right up, safely and happily." That's my advice, and you'll find it sound, replied the elder conspirator like one having experience. I'll think of it, but mind you, Mac, not a word of this to the sisters. We're a couple old fools to be matchmaking so soon, but I see what is before me, and it's a comfort to free my mind to someone. So it is. Depend on me not even a breath. Wait a minute. Depend on me not a breath even to Jane, answered Uncle Mac with a hearty shake and a sympathetic slap on the shoulder. Why, what dark and awful secrets are going on here? Is it a Freemason's lodge and those are the mystic signs? Asked a gay voice at the door, and there stood Rose, full at the sight of her two uncles, hand in hand, whispering and nodding to one another mysteriously. They stared like schoolboys caught plotting mischief, and looked so guilty she took pity on them, innocently imagining the brothers were indulging in a little sentiment on this joyful occasion. So she added quickly as she beckoned without crossing the threshold, "Women not allowed, of course, but both of you dear odd fellows are wanted, for Aunt Plenty begs we will have an old-fashioned contra dance, and I'm to lead off with Uncle Mac. I chose you, sir, because you do it in style, pigeon wings and all. So please come, and Phoebe is waiting for you, Uncle Alex. She's rather shy, you know, but we'll enjoy it with you to take care of her." Thank you, cried both gentlemen, following with great alacrity. Unconscious, Rose enjoyed that Virginia reel immensely, for the pigeon wings were superb, and her partner conducted her through the convolutions of the dance without a fault, going down the middle in his most gallant style. Landing safely at the bottom, she stood aside to let him get his breath, for stout Uncle Mac was bound to do or die on that occasion, and would have danced his pumps through without a murmur if she had desired it. Leaning against the wall with his hair in his eyes and a decidedly bored expression of countenance was Mac Jr., who'd been surveying the gymnastics of his parent with respectful astonishment. "Come and take my hand." "No, come and take a turn, my lad. Rose is fresh as a daisy, but we old fellows soon get enough of it, so you shall have my place," said his father, wiping his face, which glowed like a cheerful peony. "No, thank you, sir. I can't stand that sort of thing. I'll race you round the piazza with pleasure, cousin, but his oven is too much for me," was Mac's uncivil reply as he backed toward the open window as if glad of an excuse to escape. "Fragile creature, don't stay on my account, I beg. I can't leave my guest for a moonlight run, even if I dare to take it on a frosty night in a thin dress," said Rose, fanning herself and not a bit ruffled by Mac's refusal, for she knew his ways and they amused her. "Not half so bad as all this dust, gas, heat, and noise. What do you suppose lungs are made of?" demanded Mac, ready for a discussion then and there. "I used to know, but I've forgotten now. I've been so busy with other things I've neglected the hobbies I used to ride 5 or 6 years ago," she said, laughing. "Ah, those were times worth having. Are you going in for much of this sort of thing, Rose?" he asked, with a disapproving glance at the dancers. "About 3 months of it, I think. Then goodbye till New Year," and Mac vanished behind the curtains. "Rose, my dear, you really must take that fellow in hand before he gets to be quite a bear. Since you have been gone, he has lived in his books and got on so finely that we let him alone, though his mother groans over his manners. Polish him up a bit, I beg of you, for it is high time he mended his odd ways and did justice to the fine gifts he hides behind them," said Uncle Mac, scandalized at the bluntness of his son. I know my chestnut burr too well to mind his prickles, but others do not, so I will take them in hand and make them a credit to his family," answered Rose readily. "Take Archie for your model. He's one of 1,000, and the girl who gets him gets a prize. I do assure you," added Uncle Mac, who found matchmaking to his taste and thought that closing remark a deep one. "Oh me, how tired I am," cried Rose, dropping into a chair as the last carriage rolled somewhere between 1 and 2. "What's your opinion now, Miss Campbell?" asked the doctor, addressing her for the first time by the name which had been uttered so often that night. "My opinion is that Miss Campbell is likely to have a gay life if she goes on as she has begun, and that she finds it very helpful so far," answered the girl, with lips still smiling from their first taste of what the world calls pleasure. And that's it, finally, for Chapter 3, Miss Campbell. Have a lovely crafty day. I don't know what we're up to. We're in Gatlinburg until we leave out. Oh, my eyes are terrible. Sorry. Until Friday morning, we'll be heading back home. Hope to be live at 5. Be sweet, don't be ugly. Bye-bye.